now, I'm a recovering narcissist. I went through law school, had an existential meltdown right at the end of law school, and was so depressed trying to do family law, I thought it was either suicide or run. You know when it gets so bad? You have to either kill yourself or get in my little yellow Honda and hit the road. So I hit the road and became a house painter for a while. And by that time, I had been so interested in Fritz Perls, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I'd gone to some bioenergetics and Gestalt therapy workshops. And, you know, if you've been in law school and you go to a weekend workshop where it's all this intense stuff, bioenergetics, Gestalt therapy, all this opening up, what does law school feel like after a weekend like that? As the new INXS song would say, it ain't pretty. Are we okay? Good.
How's the volume for you guys?
Is it too loud? Okay. So, now my interest has actually dovetailed beyond that. I got my master's from UBC in counseling. I did my master's thesis on the long-term process of meditation, incorporating people like Krishnamurti, Zen, some yoga sutras, and studying a person that went over to India. Did my doctorate at U of C, and again used Wilber. And can you imagine doing a doctoral seminar on Wilber in 1990 at the University of Calgary and how everybody would have got so effing worked up? It was crazy. They made little jokes. I remember my supervisor, Wilber's theory is the spectrum of consciousness. And my supervisors made little jokes, spectacles of consciousness and stuff like that. And, you know, so it was an interesting time. But, you know, sometimes, you know, when you're writing your own energy, you say to yourself, who cares? And after I got my doctorate, I took a turn in EAP, unfortunately. I think, Mark, is that you? Mark, I was a disaster with the EAP, got all depressed and had a little meltdown around that. Because the EAP is too short term. It's like my particular contract was only 3 sessions. And I was interested in all this Jungian, existential, transpersonal psychotherapy. So that doesn't quite fit into the EAP framework very well. So after EAP, I went back to my roots. You know, one thing is, I had done addictions work after my master's, and I loved addictions work because it's out in left field. It embraces the biopsychosocial spiritual model. You do not have to hide because you want to embrace spirituality. I mean, Bill Wilson, the white light experience, is a key foundational aspect of 12 steps. So, you know, recovery it really embraces spirituality. So I got back on my path. I ended up getting a teaching job after some contract work at a college. And then I've been at the University of Lethbridge now, going into my 9th year. And I've been at the same time doing all these transpersonal workshops and lots of transpersonal group therapy, lots of individual counseling, but lots of intense transpersonal group therapy, facilitating our journey of transformation. And each of us have to work through what I believe is our narcissistic patterns. And what we'll find out, what I'll be talking to you today is narcissism is not like a DSM-4 term. It is a human problem. We all want to be operators. We all want to take shortcuts, be big effing operators, and have the whole world bow down to us and tell us how great we are. But we're just all very creative in ways we do that. And working with addictions people, they're very creative. But when I said I'm a recovering narcissist, I am. Because you see, I went into law, you know, for no good reason. I went into law because my dad said, law or medicine, take your choice. Being lazy, I said, law. So, you know, there I'm in U of T Law School. I don't even know why. I mean, it's been a path of recovery from narcissism, because one of the things we'll be talking about today too is narcissism and ego inflation's tricky. You can have some wonderful spiritual experiences where the skies are opening up, you're dabbing on cosmic consciousness, you're feeling yourself totally in bliss, and you go, Ah, ain't I special? Shall I call Oprah now? And Trumka called that spiritual materialism. So we tend to make opening up spiritual experiences our own. So that's very much why I embrace this idea of using something like a Wilber's model, where you learn to let go of experience and keep working on your patterns and get to a place, or after a while, you're no longer attached to spiritual experience. You see it's just an emerging journey. So, now that was supposed to be like a 15-second blurb. Okay, so well, there you go. This is like a check-in. We do that in counseling. Then you say, I feel better, now you please go. So, people just check in. Do you want to do it around? Or do you like to wait till your belly says it's my turn and just do it, Which way do you guys like to do it? What's that? Go around? Okay, that is true. So which way, who's ready to start? Okay, we'll go this, yeah.
My name is Justin. I'm from Quebec. I guess that my interest into wholeness and transpersonal psychology started about 5-6 years ago. I discovered books from Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote The Conversation with God, and also Deepak Chopra. And I've been in the process of writing a thesis on quantum physics and wholeness.
Oh, good.
The evidence is that everything is part of the same field, everything is contributed from the same energy with quantum physics evidences, and yeah.
Nice. That's following in. Who is that? Fritz Capra? Yeah, yeah.
I've read it.
You're good. Okay. Are you doing? You're in the master's program or something too, aren't you?
Yeah, just graduated actually. So yeah, my name is David Bose. I just graduated from the master's program, which is out of Trinity Western, in fact, where we incorporate a lot of spirituality into the program. So it's a really great experience. Looking in light as an MDiv student, as well as a counseling student, and get lots of that. Lots of good spiritual trainings and all sorts of good stuff there. So that's been very, very nice. And I've always been very interested in transpersonal psychology. I was reading Carl Jung when I was in high school. And all sorts of transpersonal experiences that I've had chemically induced in the lives.
Uh-huh.
The LL.B. Certainly helped me.
Or we can call those altered states of consciousness. We have to learn to verify our language so it sounds more highfalutin, so we can survive in this cruel world of justifying our existence. Anyways.
But anyhow, I had some pretty amazing experiences that way when I was quite young, and I think those were actually relatively transformative. I wouldn't necessarily recommend them,
Yeah.
but yeah. So
Okay.
that's part of my journey.
Okay, we're going this way. Okay, that's fine. Yep. Yep. Introductions, and then we're going to turn on the afterburners, and we're going to go. So don't get worried. There will be lots of intensity, so enjoy the moment.
That was to help the OCDs?
Well, we're doing a group intervention on them. Anyways. So, a couple of rules. Don't harass me about the PowerPoints. I bring them all. I have them all here for you. I tend to sometimes skip over a bunch of them because it's more of an energy thing, working with the energy thing. You have them all there, so that's why you have them. So, I like to make these things. I believe we learn more from an experiential base than just being in our heads. So what I want to start off with is the short 2-minute version of what this is all about. Okay? And one could say that if we sit down and why don't we actually do a small opening up meditation awareness exercise. And since this is a group that's going for it, it will be actually 3 stages. Okay, the first stage will be a humming on your out breath. We'll go through about 6 to 8. Do people know what I mean when I say humming on your out breath? deep breath in, on your out breath, we all hum together. It's a way to start to get the energy of the room synchronized. The second stage is a little bit of a primal scream catharsis thing, where on a count of 5, we each get a chance to kind of open up our vocal cords and use those as vibrational energy fields and clear up. Now, take a reading of yourself right now. If you're feeling a little wounded somewhere, you've got some sort of numbness, you can use a little bit of a catharsis to open that energy up. Now, this might make some people uncomfortable, so don't do very much. Other people who enjoy it, have fun. So we'll do maybe a couple rounds of that. And then we'll close with a hollow bamboo meditation where we're just like hollow bamboos in the present moment. Because the focus of this workshop today, it's always about here, okay? Healing always happens in the present moment. So we're going to, hollow bamboo. And I will go through it with you as we're going through it, okay? First stage, and maybe I'll get my old friend Mark, can you lead us on the humming out breath, okay? Okay, so deep breath in. Another breath. Another one. Let the sound vibrate through you. Two more. One. Okay, now, on a count of 5 is a chance for you to just do a little, use your voice. You can just mumble a little bit, gibberish a little bit. It's your chance, just because your voice can be a way to just keep yourself opened up. And we don't have to do it very loud, but we can just have fun. It's a way to become a clear energy. You want to be a clear energy presence. Okay, we'll do 2 rounds. So the first round on the count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ah! Notice that, eh? From the belly, you're opening yourself up because life is hard. We get frozen, we get shut down. We lose our ability to be mirrors in the moment, okay? One more, okay, on a count of 5. Enjoy it. This is something to be enjoyed. Okay, on a count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ah! Wonderful. Now we move into being like hollow bamboos. We close our eyes, we're like a hollow bamboo. We have nothing to hang on to. No worries, no concerns, nothing to hang on to. We just flow in the wind, relaxed, no problems or concerns. Okay, we'll do it for a couple minutes. 30 seconds. Okay, I'm glad you come back into the room. All right then, nice. I thank people. You can tell when people are hooking in. See, the thing is, even when we get all philosophizing and whatever, we can't forget the power of coming back to this moment, because this moment is where the healing is at. Okay, so now, how many people here read Groff's, not Stan, Christina Groff's book, The Thirst for Wholeness? Okay, and Ken, what would you say the general theme of that was?
That we all have a need for transcending ourselves and connecting with a sense of universal oneness. This need is frustrated. A sense of oneness, a sense of loss of ego, is aided through consumption of alcohol, which is a counterfeit.
The idea is people have this intention for wholeness, but we're all sort of like McDonald's type people, you know? We say, I want to be whole the fastest way possible. So I'm going to get whatever drug or beer or whatever, I'm going to be whole like right now, and I won't even go on this journey. I'm just going to become whole. So think about it. For example, now here's what we're going to do as an exercise together. I want to think of the last time you indulge yourself in a bit of an addictive pathway. And it doesn't even have to, you don't have to have gone out and had some heroin, or you don't have to have gone out and rented a prostitute, or you don't, it can be a small thing, like that nice big bowl of ice cream as you went to sit down and watch whatever TV show at nighttime, and you made love to your bowl as you watched the ice cream. You knew that, hey, you're not even hungry, but this is soothing you. So, can you each in your mind, now let's think, what do we, try to get an incident in your mind of when you're feeling a certain way and you decide, boy, I need a cigarette, or boy, I need a beer, or boy, I need to smoke some pot, or boy. So, can you capture that moment? Now, this is not the moment that you've decided yet, just as you're warming up to it. Okay, and what feelings come up? Anybody? Emptiness, good. Anxiety, that's a very big, huge one for addictions. Tensions, yeah, those are good ones. What's that? Itchy, yeah, uncomfortable, itchy, yeah. Yeah. Impatient, yeah, sure. Shifting, yeah, you're uncomfortable shifting, yeah. Okay, see what's going on here. Now, go along with your little guided imagery, and now look at the relief, your little process. You sit down for your glass of wine, and you say, F 'em. Or you have your beers, or your whatever, or your rituals. What happens to your feeling state? Well, how does it feel now? Numb, no more pain. Guilt. Oh, that's a good, okay. Any others? Blank? Soothed? No pain, no cares? What's that? Shifting, okay. So, if we can think of it, look at how much that is an attempt at self-repair. Okay, so we can see that. You're trying to do your own dirty self-repair and you're lazy, so what you do is you come up with this addictive pathway. So you had an intention towards wholeness, but your behavioral pathway wasn't too smart. But now you've got yourself a little self-repaired. But what happens now if we even mess that up a little bit? And so we've done, okay, we're looking at the underbelly. We've done that. Now we see the positive. Now, and then we've done self-repair, okay? But what happens now if we look? Okay, so we're kind of feeling in pain. We have some sort of addictive pathway. But what has happened to our bellies? Have we dealt with our bellies at all? And what happens now? Like, what does trauma feel like? And we'll be looking into this more today. If we look at trauma or being abused or being shamed, and then there was an emptiness, like what we're trying to look at today, this is second stage stuff, is we've got to be courageous enough to go to the emotional underbelly. Okay? And so people who have been anybody here read some of Linsky's books on false chorus? Well, anyways, when you get traumatized and you don't deal with it very well, and you have to go to the bottom of it, what type of false core do you end up with when you've been really traumatized? False things like, I'm bad, I'm not okay, I'm abandoned, I shouldn't have been born, I'm unlovable. So what I'm proposing here is you can have this little addictive cycle going on up here, the little feelings and then the thing, but what we haven't dealt with is underneath there, the belly of addiction, the emotional pain. So what we're diving into with Wilber's stuff today is, okay, challenge and recovery, motivational interviewing, stages of change, processing de Clemente, treatment centers, blah, blah, blah. Okay, stage 2. Okay, the dangers of staying in stage 1 is cross addictions. You can get out of the booze and start gambling. You can have relapses, or you can be a miserable, dry drunk who just makes everybody around you miserable. And I've had a few friends like that. And they make you miserable, and you want, they really make people miserable. And underneath that all, they're in misery and they suffer. So we need to go into second stage recovery. This is where a model like Wilber is going to be very good because it's 10 stages of development. It's exhaustive, pre-ego, egoic, and trans-egoic. Okay? So we're switching into high gear now of second stage. We're letting people, this is not the behavioral lecture on how to get people initially abstinent or the motivational interviewing one about embracing ambivalence and all that sort of stuff. This is the second stage recovery part we're talking about here, okay? Are people following me? Okay. So, what we're going to do then is we're going to use Wilber's model. Okay, and I'm not going to get into too much the 4 quadrants today and all these recent developments where Wilber's decided he wants to take over the whole world, because that's another narcissistic paper in itself. What I want to more focus on some of his earlier to late mid-term clinical work, which I think is very exciting, and I'm going to give you today an Almas, who's a new rival, who's wonderful, clinical working of this that makes a lot more sense. So first off, we start off with Wilber. ALMAAS. For those who have the article, I'm sure it's cited in my article, and it will be in the PowerPoint later on. And one of his best books is called The Point of Existence, The Transformation of Narcissism and Realization. So for all you narcissists, there's a good reference for you. Okay, and when someone says, well, I'm not a narcissist. Oh. Okay, so now let me give you the little thing on Wilber. Okay, he's a brilliant guy. He decided why don't we combine conventional psychology with contemplative lines of development. So basically what he did is he took 6 stages of conventional psychology and added 4 stages of contemplative meditative development and stuck them together into a 10-stage ladder of development. Okay? And he has 3 stages, pre-ego, ego, and trans-ego. Now, there's lots of fighting we can get into about the different stages, and there's lots of big fighting between the Wilberites and the Washburns and the other people, and we can argue. But basically, though, I want you to see that there's this idea of ego development, and then a consolidated ego, and then transcending ego. Okay, so you're with me up to now? And he has, if you really want to be like show how smart you are at work one day, you can go to Wilber's Integral Psychology and photocopy all those lines of development. And he's got like 20 lines of development. And then just write out Wilber's name and put your name on there. And just say this is you were kind of free-flowing overnight time. This came to you at night while you were sleeping. And see how that goes. Anyways, so now the big thing is, and the best clinical piece from Wilber is actually from a book called Transformation of Consciousness, 1986. Jointly wrote with a couple other people, where he has only 100 pages in there, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5. There he actually shows he can think like a clinician. The rest of the time he's not thinking like a clinician, because working with people is grounded in people's phenomenology, their lived experience. So if you really want, now that book can be hard to get a hold of, but I think it's in one of the volumes of his collected works. And if you notice my article, you notice that I've used that piece primarily to work off of. Because isn't it wonderful when you can figure out the developmental level of a client, get an idea of the pathology, and get an idea of the treatment, and just percolate it right along, and then you can have all these different developmental levels and all these different treatments. And then someone asks you who you are, you can say, well, I am a humanistic, existential, transpersonal, Jungian, narrative, Bowenian therapist. Yeah, something like that. Okay? So, now, what I'm going to do, though, is I'm not going to spend, here's what sometimes I get trapped into doing. Going through all the 10 stages now, and then it takes forever, and then we never get to the clinical explanations of the 10 stages. So I'm just going to briefly show you the 10 stages, and then we're going to jump into the clinical working of each of the 10 stages. So does that sound okay? So mainly hold your questions as we're actually into each one of the stages. Okay. Oh, there's the 4 quadrants. We're primarily staying to the upper left today. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about that. Okay, there's pre-ego and ego-transcendence. This does very well with people like Maslow. Okay, pre-egoic levels, you got sensory physical, that's basically your physical. Phantasmic emotional, that's your birth of your emotional self. And you've got your rep mind, which is the birth of your intrapsychic mind. Pre-egoic stages. People regress to pre-egoic stages. You can be at a higher stage. If anybody has ever got a little out of reality, what can happen is you were functioning in a fairly ego identity phase pretty well, and then you can regress back, and people notice that you've regressed back to a lower level. And if you really do a good job of it, your regression can actually be brought to the attention of the authorities. Because level 2 is your basic self-other level. And when you go grandiose, you go totally into self, and you proclaim you are, in fact, the new black Jesus. And, gather around. And I've had clients that have rushed into coffee shops and knocked everything over and made speeches. And, it hasn't really gone that well. Most of the time, though, that phase has passed quite fast. Okay? So that's pre-egoic phases. We can regress, and we can also have split-off parts of ourselves. This is, say if you've been abused, you can have a split-off self that you've lost track of it through disassociation, and it's hiding down in a nice little pocket of your beingness. Okay? Okay, so we're going to keep going here. Egoic levels. Rural role, basically your social level. Okay, level 4, that's your social belongingness. You see this with adolescents, need to belong. That's fairly you got to get your different gigs. In your adolescent, you decide, I'm going to get away from my parents. Now I'm the new black sheep, and I can be like a black sheep guy with my gang, and would I be popular? Break into a few houses. Whoa, my social status will really climb up at school. Okay, and being counselors, unfortunately, counselors, you got to deal a lot of youth clients at level 4. Level 5. That's like the formal ego stage, where people will go around, don't you know who I am? And then people think, well, I think you're an effing asshole. You can edit that, by the way. And they say, well, I'm the president of the university. Oh, formal ego identity. That tends to be around careers and things. You know, you see the people walking around, and it's hard to have a conversation because, hey, I am somebody. I am son. Don't you effing forget. See, when I say effing, that's my political correctness coming in. That's sort of a mid-path. Okay? Because every once in a while I get a complaint at the university about my swearing. So, now, for example, if you're a big operator, just like in Meet Joe Black, Anthony Hopkins playing the billionaire, how does death treat the big operator? How does Dr. Death deal with the big operator? Yes, like a steamroller. There are no deals with death. Death annihilates level 5. So, you know, the big wheel will have quite a shock. You know, what's that saying goes? The bell tolls for thee. And this is, as we know, working with, say, youth, the day that you have a youth that actually realizes that he or she is not immortal, that death is there and it's percolating along. And IL1a has done very nice work on this. You know, things like meaninglessness as well, logotherapy, that sort of thing, the search for meaning, the ability to have relationship and aloneness. Some of us have a hard time with our aloneness. So that's your mind-body integration stage. But you notice there's not a lot of transcendence yet. Okay? So we'll keep on going because this is just our preliminary talk. Transpersonal levels, and we won't spend too much, I'll just say psychic, subtle, causal, and non-dual. And we'll get more into that in a little bit and later on when we're doing some interventions with those stages. Okay. Now, we're about to jump into some more interventions. Okay, I'm not going to spend much time on level 1 today. Okay, level 2 is the birth of the emotional self. Okay? Now, level 1 obviously is about detoxification and that sort of thing. Okay, now I want us to get more of a sense of level 2. In the sense of self-other. Okay, now think about it. Don't each one of us have a basic orientation to self-other? Self-other, like think about it, at a very, very basic level, there's a sense of self and the other out there at a very basic level. Now, what happens in life, though, is that, say, for people, you know, you're supposed to be maybe held and contained as you grow up as a child, but what can happen is that self-other relationship can get totally violated and totally, shaken up, like that. You can lose what almost would say your basic trust in life. Have you ever had the experience when something has happened so bad at a self-other level that it's rocked your cage so badly that it's taken the wind out from underneath you? You feel like you're so badly rocked that it's like life will never be the same? Who's had an experience like that? And that's very huge. Now, here's the thing about it, though. As counselors, we tend to stay away from those levels. okay? And because what can happen is, it's messy, and I'm not talking specifically about trauma, but you can have a client that's had so many of these experiences, the way they come in to talk to you is by complaining. They feel screwed by life all the time, constantly screwed, and they have this sense of life keeps screwing them over. And that makes sense, doesn't it? I just had an emergency client just the other day. End of the line, he needs an emergency session, drove from Edmonton to Lethbridge because he heard I could deal with his suicide or movement problem. Okay, so now, before I'm going to develop this a little bit further. What typically happens in self-other, as we're growing up, we get somebody that actually focuses totally on the self. Like, think of a big light bulb around the self. Did anybody see that Jim Carrey movie, The Truman Show? Isn't that a great example of a total level 2, total focus on self? As if the whole world existed for self. Okay, and so what that would mean then is that that person's already starting to develop grandiosity, manicness, perhaps a lack of empathy, because the world is there only to serve the self. And you get like a cocaine addict that really gets wired up for a long period of time. That cocaine addict may actually regress right back down to level 2. Okay, now another typical pattern is a borderline pattern, where you get the person where he has a weak sense of, now, should I be doing it this way or if you're looking back at this way? Oh, wow. Okay, self is here, others there. The person has a weak sense of self, other-oriented, dependent-oriented, begging all the time. And we know people like that, begging for validation. You know, how does it feel to beg? Feels pretty bad. Feels pretty pathetic. But sometimes we feel so bad, it's necessary. So you got this borderline person that begs, 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 and finally one day says, I've had it. Screw who's ever been helping me out, and gets into rage. So you get the self-other flipping back and forth. So you see nice little patterns, and we have to deal with those people in therapy a fair bit, okay? But now, what there's a tendency for us to do, though, is we don't handle pain very well at this very basic level. So what I want us to do for a second is, because we teach our clients, this is too painful. I don't want to get into this crap today. It's too painful. But hey, here we are. Life is painful. So what I'd like to, we need to befriend our pain. Now I want you to think of a medium. It doesn't have to be a totally pain thing. A medium pain thing. I don't think of one, and everybody else think of one too. And what I want you to do for a change, rather than trying to fix it, first, let's just give it a voice for a minute or two together, our pain. Like my pain, for example, was for a little while, the vice president of the university thought the addictions counseling program, which I was the coordinator, was a flaky program. And he's, that caused pain. He's judging me. He says, hey, you're a flake. You're a flake. You're a flake. That causes pain. So I'll sit in my pain, and you sit in your pain, but I want you to circulate a little bit. I want you to give it a little voice of a song or something, just like the First Nations people will do, and just circulate a little bit, but do not try to cure it. Do not try to attack it. Do not try to do anything with it, but just honor it by giving it a little bit of a voice. Can people do that with me? If you got your own, surely you all have your own little pain. Okay, let's try it together. Wailing away. Okay, can you feel the energy there? Okay, now what we're going to do, just sit in your pain and don't judge it. No judgment. No choice, no judgment. Don't say this is bad, just sit in it. Whatever it is, just sit in it. Let's just do that together for about a minute. Okay. Now, what happens if you don't judge your pain? Anybody? Can lessen, but you see, even mine, I had the pain of being marginalized, grief. But if I sit in it, the judgment changes, and you also, there's a sense of expansion. By becoming one with even intense energy, there can be a sense of expansion. And like pain like this is very hurtful, but what happens if I have the pain of being what I feel sort of judged by a person with more power about my program? It's a grief, but I expand. And then you can have a broken-hearted, open-hearted grief that expands. It starts to connect with universal pain with other people. So all of a sudden, by no judging, choiceless awareness. Now this is, I'm giving you a little Krishnamurti technique here. But I'm just trying to kind of, or if you're familiar with Sozanne and one of his poems, this is about no choices, no preference. Okay, so you've got intense pain, but our problem is we create splits. We create splits because we say to ourselves, I do not like this pain. And we create psychic splits. And that's how we create splits within ourselves, and that's how we end up causing out further and further problems. So the way out, unfortunately, is by working with the pain, and you drop the judgment. The judgment causes the split. You see, this is going to be very important when we talk about trauma here in a few minutes. Because it's our judgments that freeze us in time and make us paralyzed and get us all out of our flow. So we've got to really work on these judgments. And as we open up, so even in something, have you ever had the experience of acute loneliness and you just sit there with loneliness? Just sit in loneliness, that absolutely heart-painful loneliness, and you just stop trying to save yourself. Just sit in it. I can remember when I didn't know how to do that, I'd get on the phone a bunch of people I hated. Hey, how's it going? Let's get together. I hate these people. But I'm so effing desperate that I got to phone them. Okay, it's painful, okay? But back, be at one with your pain. You see, and I got a little Gangaji quote in there somewhere. She talks about that. She's a non-dual therapist or teacher out of states, southern states. Pain, you've got to stop escaping our pain. We've got to be in our pain and work it through. Okay, so this is a level 2. This is sort of basic level 2. And I can't cover all the borderline narcissistic things, but I do want to give you a sense of working with pain. Very, very primal pain. We're about to go to level 3. And here's what I'm going to suggest. We were a little late starting, so what I suggest is I can get an extra 15 minutes at the end. And what we'll do is take like a 5-minute break at 11:30. Okay, we're going to go, it's 11:12 now, we'll go to 11:30, take a 5-minute break, and come back till 12:30, and that'll be it. Does that sound fair? Okay. Now you're starting to get what we're trying to do. We're trying to actually, or as Krishnamurti would say, be choicelessly aware of what is. Okay? Rather than fighting, attacking, trying to change it, we're trying to bring awareness into what is. Okay, that's level 2, and we're about to go to level 3. Now, level 3 is going to be really important, so I don't want to rush it, and we might even want to get through part of it before the little break we have. Oh, we've already started done this false core driver. Okay. Level 3. Okay, this interest psychic self. Now, to make it really simple, you can almost think of really simple, and this is not necessarily how it has to be. Think of Freud's early work. You have the id. Addicts know the id, biological pleasure principle. Superego, the moral conscience, the judger, and the ego, the executive in charge. And between the three of them, they're trying to work it all out. Okay? So what happens is addicts tend to, for example, think of ourselves. What do we do when we're anxious? Because isn't anxiety all about something about, part of you is worrying about the future, and part of you saying, I don't like this. part of you is saying, I don't like this. There's a big judgment there. I don't like it. Have you ever noticed if you're really anxious in a situation and you say to yourself, no judgment, the anxiety turns to energy. But we live in a society that says you've got to eradicate anxiety, so the best way is, here, have a beer, my friend. You'll be able to ask that girl to dance with you in a few minutes. Just have a beer or two, and you'll be up in that dance floor in no time, because then that person finds liquid courage. Because you see, we have a natural orientation towards wholeness. We don't like, you know how bad you feel when part of you is saying, I kind of screwed up, and the other part is saying, oh, you're disgusting, and all this stuff. You got this big psychic wars going on. Well, we got to work on those psychic wars, because when you're split, when you've got different parts going on inside, it eats up your energy. It's kind of like when your transmission is about to go in your car. You can kind of hear it. This is the way we're grinding ourselves all day long. It doesn't need to be that way. Okay? Or is there some, have you ever noticed even today, part of you is saying, oh, this is a crappy workshop, this is so boring, when's the break? Why did I even come here anyways? Who cares? They're all a bunch of assholes anyways. Inner dialogue like that? Maybe, maybe not. Eh? Maybe some of us are more dark than the others. Okay, what we got to do though is you got to work, because when we're all split like this, that's not flow. We're not in flow. Like that's, well, who here can pronounce his name? He gets an extra donut at the break. And maybe you could email me with a correct, I've been saying shush, oh well, whatever. Okay, so what happens is we have interpsychic conflict, and it comes through, and we get anxiety, depression, guilt, fear, inhibition. So what we have to do is open the beings up. So a part of that is, have you ever known that what can happen in adults? We get frozen. I got no energy. I've been pretty hard. I got a lot of my energy. And you got to your place on the bus, and you're going to go to work today. Sitting there like that, I got no energy. We get frozen. Life's hard. Life rams us down. So we have to reclaim our energy. We are vital force fields. So we've got to reclaim our natural energy. So this is intense work. See, what we're doing is we're almost doing transpersonal work here on earlier developmental levels. Because what transpersonal sees is you can be whole. So, I get cognitive behaviorals are always giving me a hard time. So I tell them I'm doing transpersonal cognitive behavioral work. And then they don't know what that means, so they don't ask any more questions. Well, another way of saying it, though, they try to make their judge rational. I try to eliminate the judge. Okay, so I'm going to show you a few things here. Okay, so I think we should, one of the best things is trauma, okay? I want to work a little bit with trauma, and I thought maybe I'd show you a little bit of a trauma thing I did, and you can get a sense of it, because it's hard to, but I want someone to play me out, but I'll give you all the parts, and we're going to have, I need two people. I need a young Gary who's about 13 years old, and I need a dad. And I'll coach you along with it. We need just two volunteers, okay? Come on up. Okay, come on up. Oh, no, where's? No, you're the dad, you're the son. You already chose. Okay, now, just have a seat for now while I lay out the story, okay? Now, the basic theory of the transpersonal theory of trauma that I'm working on is, we'll see, it is the splitting off and the judgment that we make about trauma that freezes us in time forever. So we're going to play with that. Okay, so here's the scenario. Gary, you're in about grade 8. You're trying to be a big hit at school. You're getting into a little hippie. This is 1974, being a big hippie at school, playing Ozzy Osbourne when he could still rock, and Black Sabbath. Okay, and then you're growing your hair long, and you're a dad, you're a doctor. Okay, and you've had a previous son who rebelled and got into drugs, and you want to clamp it down. okay? And so now, Gary's come back from the barber, and he's got what we call a pretend haircut for hippies. He's pretending to get a haircut, but he just tucked it behind his ears. Okay, and what you have to do is ask him to see his haircut, and then you say to him, son, that's very acceptable. Come out into the porch with me. Okay?
That's unacceptable?
Unacceptable. Come out into the porch with me, and then we'll stop it right there for a second, okay? And we're going to freeze frame this down, because this is how trauma actually is. Our big trauma things are freeze frames, okay? So maybe we'll have Gary over here. Okay, and maybe you can, and your name's Lloyd, maybe you can get Lloyd to ask Gary to come in here. And when he comes in here, you want to say, I want to look at that hair. And then you say, that's not short enough. That's totally unacceptable. Come on out to the deck with me, okay? Okay, let's try that.
His name's Gary?
Yeah.
Gary, come on in here. I want to take a look at you. Let me look at that haircut of yours. What is that? That's not short enough. That's not acceptable. That is not acceptable. Have a porch. Come on over here.
Okay, now come on. Let's freeze frame it for a second. Okay, what's already happening? Can you see the potential intensity? And he's already brought it on. The danger, the potential.
Look at his haircut.
Yeah, no, but you're doing a good job. You're doing a good job, okay? He's already moved from boisterousness to fear, hasn't he? Okay? And so it's already, you can see the whole trauma episode developing here. Okay, so what I want you to do in a second is I want you to put him down in that chair, kind of, just a little rough, you know. But I want you to get a shaver out, not a clipper, and I say, I want you to give him a decent haircut. So none more of the stuff. And then just let him sit there, and then finish it off and say, all right, you can go. Okay?
Okay. Get on the deck here. Get on the deck here. Sit down. Right here. Sit down. I'm going to show you what a good haircut. Hey, you just sit down and face forward. Face forward. I'm going to show you what a good haircut is, young man.
What the heck?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, let's stop.
Now that's a good haircut. That's what when you go out there, that's what I want to see when you come back from the haircut.
Okay, now, and this is a tough thing, so I thank them for doing that. Okay, let's stop. Okay, now.
And you too, by the way.
Okay, now. Okay, we're not dealing with him today. Okay, but but we will still need him for a second. Now, think of Gary here. What's going to be happening with him? Okay, now think of it. He'll also, as he's getting terrorized, what happens to his resourcefulness? Fight or flight. He's in freezes, loses physical. He shrinks. As he sits down, he may even start to disassociate a little bit. And what inside does he say to himself? You say, oh my God, this is terrible. The kids are going to make fun of me at school. They're going to be all laughing at me. This is so awful. I don't believe this. No, not yet though. No. That may be at a deeper level, but he's not there right now. So what's happened is he actually has a trauma thing going on now, and he had no chance to respond, and all these judgments of how terrible this is are really going to hurt him. And there's going to be, but you're right though. Deep down, let's put you over there, Lloyd. How are you going to feel about your dad?
Absolutely furious.
Okay, and you know, this is what I had to do myself, is I had to go to my dad and say, I hate you. I absolutely fucking hate you. Whoops. But, no, I did it in real life. Because, you see, he screwed me over so hard, I had to go back and tell him. And heal myself. But, you see, he's got to do some healing now. Because he's frozen. Now, what happened, anytime he gets in a tough situation like that, he might still be frozen. So how are we going to get his physical resourcefulness back? Well, one thing we can say to him is, when it's happening, no judgment. Okay? Now that's hard, but what if he said to himself right now, no judgment? I won't analyze the situation. Like I said, sees it like a movie and says no judgment. Let's walk back here. Let's do all this silently this time. Just play this out. Don't say anything as if it's on a video without any sound.